My name is Julie Macfarlane and I am a professor of law at the University of Windsor. So I went to law school when I was 17 years old. After I had graduated from law school, I started to see that maybe there was other work that I could do, not as a lawyer, but as somebody who could press for change inside the legal system. I did a piece of research with self-represented litigants over 2 years where I interviewed them and listened to their stories and documented that. And that made me realize that in some ways this was the great, silent secret of the legal system. That the legal system looks very bright and shiny on the outside, and if you're someone going through law school, you're anticipating having this very rewarding career. The courts look from the outside like they're functioning perfectly fine, but the reality is very different for enormous numbers of Canadians now. It made me appreciate just how difficult it is for people to bring their own cases, and also the numbers. More than half the people now in our family courts don't have a lawyer. Up to 80% of people in Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, the big cities, don't have a lawyer. They're all trying to do it on their own. So I think that that work gave me enormous sympathy for those unheard voices and their experiences. And so the National Self-Represented Litigants Project is trying to, in some ways, be a voice for that group. But there really isn't any other kind of a voice for them. And what we try to do is to work with people inside the legal system. And in a way, this is a refraction of what I was always trying to do in my own career, work inside the system to change it, to help us help self-represented litigants. So, for example, developing manuals for them to use, giving them ways of accessing a small amount of affordable service that they wouldn't ordinarily be able to get, and just trying to get the system to change to the self-represented litigants instead of the other way around. I was a litigant myself against the Anglican Church when I brought a case against the church because an Anglican Church minister had sexually abused me when I was a teenager. So many years ago, an historical case, but it felt, by the time I was ready to do this, it felt like an important thing to do to hold the church to account. That was a very hard experience, even though I was so familiar with the litigation process and I've studied it for years and written about it, and suddenly finding myself a litigant was very stressful, and it made me realize just how much people suffer when they go through that process. With or without lawyers, they suffer. I would say that the legal system is facing the biggest and most seismic change that it has for 150 years. One other thing I might say is that because I have chosen to work on issues of law reform and on issues in relation to the legal profession and the legal system from this position of being a teacher and an educator and a researcher and not a lawyer, I have often asked myself in the last 35 years, could I have had more impact if I'd gone out there and been a lawyer, been one of those people making sure that people didn't get thrown in the back of the police van without having their rights read. And I go back and forth on this a lot, but I think that there is so much opportunity for people who don't themselves practice law to take a really principled and bold and frank critique of the legal system. I think that it's really important to have people in my position say, you know, the emperor kind of has no clothes here. We need change. And that doesn't mean little teeny weeny change, it means big change. So I think I'm happy with the decision that I made to work on change from this particular perspective. And I just hope that I can go on having an impact.